This is our final presentation for the Marketing 5133 class. We competed in the MarkStrat Simulation Marketing game as Team Ninja Technologies. Group members were Lee Atkinson, Mia Barber, Patricia Graves, Hayden Howard, and Faye Sands. We are a manufacturer and seller of electronic devices in the sonite industry. We market our products to consumers based on their preferred values and desired features. Our products are researched and designed specifically for segmented target audiences. These targeted segments cover a wide demographic of customers, from value and price-sensitive consumers to those consumers looking for a quality, high-end product and not as concerned about price. Initially, we had two brands, Nova and Noon. Nova was targeted at high earners, explorers, and professional segments at a price of $550. Noon was targeted at explorers and professional segments at a price of $299. We started an R&D project called Note in the first period to develop a product for the shopper segment, which we noticed had very few brands positioned near the segment's requirements. We rolled it out in period 2 at a price of $320. This brand did very well in its initial period by capturing 41% of the shopper segment. We started 3 R&D projects in period 2 called Nova 2, Noon 2, and Nave. We introduced Nova 2 and Noon 2 as new brands in period 3 with prices of $465 and $400 respectively, and targeted at high earners and professional segments. Our last product was the Node, priced at $239, targeted at the Sabers segment and based on the Nave R&D project. We rolled this out in period 4 and withdrew the Nova brand. We targeted Noon at the Explorer segment only at this time. This gave us our final 5 brands with 1 targeted at each segment of the MarkStrat world. Here we have our various brands and the periods we marketed them in with their total revenue contribution over the span of the game. With a quick look, we can see that Note was our best-selling brand overall with $98.3 million in revenues, followed by Noon 2 at $28.5 million, and Nova at $20.7 million. We started out headed in the right direction with steady growth over the first 3 periods. However, beginning in period 4, our stock price index began to decline sharply, and we ended up in last place with a stock price index of 625. Lessons learned. Our early success was based upon the early implementation of the R&D project for the Note. This allowed us to introduce a brand early on to target the shopper segment and allowed us a healthy share of the segment for periods 2 and 3 of 41% and 42% respectively. By only introducing 1 new brand in period 2, we were also able to maintain a good level of spending on advertising and commercial teams and helped us to increase our brand awareness and realize healthy gains. Obviously, since we finished in last place, there are several things we would change if we could go back. The biggest and probably the one that hurt us the most was introducing 2 new brands, Nova 2 and Noon 2, in period 3 instead of using the R&D projects to modify our existing Nova and Noon brands. Modifying these brands would have allowed us to keep the market awareness that they had already built, but reposition them slightly to better align with the targeted segments. Also, we would not have had to spread our existing budget dollars so thin between all the brands at once and effectively cut our advertising on all brands across the board, which killed our market awareness and sales on all brands. Because we could only have 5 brands at one time, we were not able to launch our Node brand that we had developed, thus using precious resources to develop, but delaying the launch because we decided to try and sell down the inventory of Nova and Noon before withdrawing them. We also had to cut the amount of reports we ordered in order to conserve some money for advertising and commercial teams, and we lost sight of what the competition was doing. As a result, lost a significant amount of our market shares to competition. We overestimated badly on production levels and ended up with exorbitant inventory holding costs, which ate away at the bottom line and ultimately the stock price index. What did we learn about segmentation and targeting during the simulation? We decided early on that we wanted to have one product for each of the 5 segments. We felt this would be the easiest way to create or modify a brand to more closely meet the requirements of each segment and result in more sales. We found that R&D and modifications were key and had to be done early to get a jump on the competition and avoid market saturation. Once the target segments were saturated by the competitors' brands, it was much more difficult to attract customers to our brands. We found that the market research, consumer panel, and ideal values reports were absolutely essential to targeting our desired segments. We learned some valuable lessons about product and price. We ended up with 5 products, each directed at a specific segment. We found that how and when modifications and/or new products are introduced is critical to success. It is far too easy to spread the available resources for marketing too thin and end up hurting all the brands. We also discovered that price changes up or down can have negative effects on sales. We tried reducing prices in the later rounds and discovered that this did not increase sales, but we actually sold less, and the lower prices cut our profit margins overall. Apparently, lowering the price caused some of our customers to believe that we had an inferior product and cost us sales. It looks to be a better strategy to have a good price in the beginning and stick with it. Place is very important in order to know where to concentrate the advertising and commercial team dollars. In the beginning, we looked at the channels and where each segment liked to shop, but we didn't do so well at checking this in the later rounds and adjusting our team accordingly. We found that most of the revenue came from specialty stores and mass merchandisers, and our commercial teams were focused on these 2 channels predominantly. We didn't do a good job of following the changes in the channels and changing our team around. As far as promotion goes, we decided that since we had a brand for each segment, we would allocate the available advertising dollars for each brand 100% to the segment that the brand was targeting. This worked well in the early rounds, but we found that in the later rounds, when the segments were well saturated, that we needed some cross-segment advertising to try and draw more customers to our product. It was painfully obvious during the simulations that cutting advertising dollars to products without good brand awareness is a mistake and will cost sales. So, much like our stock price index, it is time for the ninjas to disappear. Thank you.